Welcome into the ProBox TV studio. The story we've been dealing with all week, the fallout, of course, from Lamont Roach Jr. and Gervonta Davis. The fight ended up being a majority draw. The controversy around a 9th round knockout that was not called by the referee that would have completely changed the outcome of the fight and perhaps changed boxing history. Jimmy Smith in studios alongside the champs. That's right, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi, and joining us, advisor to Lamont Roach Jr., Robert Diaz, and his promoter, our boss, Gary Jonas. First question I have to ask, boss, this appeal filed with the New York State Athletic Commission appealing the judgment. Tell me, where does that thought process come from? Is it right away we are appealing this immediately? Tell me about the thought process.
Yeah, I think obviously there's nothing you can do during the fight. And you have to wait for the fight to be over. You talk amongst your team. You figure out what the right course of action is. I think it took Robert and I maybe 24 to 48 hours to form a plan, talk to an attorney, and approach it from the perspective of, okay, what are we appealing? And what result do we want out of the appeal? So you looked at it, it was 3 phases, right? There was the knockdown, take a knee, take a point. It's pretty basic, standard procedure in boxing. I've never seen it any other way. And then he does get up and turn his back and walk to the corner. And when you do that, that's generally considered a surrender. So he's quitting, right? No mas, is basically what that is. Now, clearly he wasn't, so I could understand if they didn't DQ him for that, but that can also be taken as a point away. And then to go get his trainer come up on the ring. So it's really a 3-part, right? The knee, the walk away, and then the getting assisted by his coach on the apron. Obviously neither happened, so we, in the general, consensus is, nobody, we've spoken to expert after expert, you guys have had him on the show, nobody's ever seen anything like that, anything that far. So I don't know how the commission could do anything else but overturn it. But let's be fair to them. They deserve a little bit of time to wrap their minds around this. So we just made the appeal 24 hours ago, and let's let them do what they have to do, and we'll await their decision.
The idea that this was unprecedented in boxing history, from people who have watched it for years, I've never seen anything like that. Robert, I have to ask you, ringside, what's going through your mind when this is going down? It's almost surreal, it had to be.
It is, and at the moment, because of experience, you don't get overheated. You try to find out. I ran over to the commission table after the round just to get clarity. When I saw that he started counting, I'm assuming it's a knockdown. Obviously, he took the knee, you start the count, it's a knockdown. Well, how come you didn't finish the count? So there was the question, what are you guys ruling it? And I was basically told, get out of here, you don't belong here right now. Okay, I know I'm not supposed to be there, but I need clarification to let the corner know, so we know.
Yeah, because there's a mandatory 8 count on knockdowns, right? So it's not like even if he's up and down, and you could say, if there was no mandatory 8 count, you could say, oh, he got up at 2, that's why the count stopped, but it's still a knockdown. So
yeah, you got to
that's
finish.
why you need clarification. Is there a mandatory 8 count on this knockdown, or does the count stop when he's up? It could vary as well. Obviously, we found out there were no knockdowns.
Yeah, that was a big surprise,
Part of the issue too, and Paula, you brought this up, replay. There's a lot. You saw the New York Post article about the replay, and this idea that there's controversy not only about what happened in the ring, but how it was dealt with right after.
The delivery and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of controversy and he said, she said type of stuff too. That I guess the investigation and the official protest will probably delve into more. My question is, obviously we know your reaction, right? You guys were kind of stunned, and you're going over to the commission table. What was the reaction around you, right? Because you aren't the only ones at ringside. I'm curious, because obviously I'm watching on TV. There's a reaction, right? He's in the arena. There's a reaction.
But I wasn't ringside. I was in the arena.
But you're in the arena, but not ringside. Exactly. So, but you're ringside. I assume even inside the corral. What was everybody around you saying? Was there just as much confusion? Because I feel like there's an energy, no matter who witnessed this, but I'm curious what that reaction was.
I think because obviously it was so quick and the action continues, it stays there and you're like confused, but you're back into the fight. You're watching the fight again and what's going to happen, what's going to unfold. But then you see 1, 2, 3. And let's not forget, the beginning of the 10th round, the bell rings, and he goes back and gets another wipe of the towel. So it's almost like another timeout. It's like, that's crazy.
Look, I was sitting next to Carl Moretti from Top Rank, and we were watching the fight, you know, and analyzing the fight, breaking it down the whole time. And he's got a lot more years experience than I do. And I just looked at him like, what the fuck just happened? I have never seen this before. And he looked at me and goes, me neither. Right? And then I looked immediately.
Carl was probably really blown off by your language, because he normally doesn't curse.
Right. And when I got up, immediately I got up and was, you know, in amazement, and I was yelling. I looked over because Robert was sitting down the way, and he was closer to the commission. And Robert was already gone. Like I could just see him, going to the commission, and then them screaming at him to get out of there. So, I mean, there's nothing, nobody had seen this before. I've asked numerous people ringside, so you know, I didn't feel like I was inexperienced as I am because nobody had seen it.
Let me lay the landscape, because you may mention, like, I was there, you guys were there, you guys were in different positions, you guys were literally ringside. I was in a media press table, so I was further away. I was amongst the crowd. And just to lay the scene out, Gervonta Davis comes on the Megatron, the place erupts. Yeah. Lamont comes on the Megatron, boos, nonstop. So this is what the energy of the night looks like, right? Okay, that weird scenario situation happens. Everyone's confused, and Robert, I think you put it perfectly. For one, the action was so tight. It was so nip-tucked throughout that when this event happened, everyone's confused. So we know what's going on. There was no clarity, and then we resumed action. The fight was still very much on the line. So everyone got right back into the fight. And I remember people who were standing around the press looking around. I literally had guys going like, Chris, what just happened? I'm like, I don't know, man. Like normal, regular people, fans are literally going like, Chris, what's happening? I'm like, I can't hear the broadcast team. I can see what you see. Everyone was confused.
And apparently, from listening to the broadcast team, they didn't know what happened either. Right. Mauro Ronaldo was asking, what just happened?
It wouldn't have helped if I could hear them either.
Yeah.
But one thing that stood out, because when I couldn't get an answer here, closer to Gary and Lamont's corner, we had ESPN knockouts. And they had a perfect shot at it. And they were saying it was a knockdown. Yeah. So now you have right in front with a better angle. So it's like, okay.
Everybody except the usual suspects has a knockdown.
Right.
Well, and look, we've received calls and conversations from people that were literally involved in the television production. And they said, no, they didn't receive it that second. But by the end of the round, and by the end of the 60 seconds between rounds, they had got it. They had seen it, and then they said, no, we're just going to stick with the referee's ruling. Which, even then, what was the referee's ruling? Since he basically said it was a knockdown, he changed his mind, right? So, you can't... The fact that they're saying they didn't get it right away, this is true. But what's the difference if they got it? Yeah, what's the difference if you got it at the end of the round?
Well, we just saw Virgil Ortiz and Bohocek. It took rounds later. Four rounds later until they called the knockdown, which was a knockdown. We knew it was a knockdown.
But not to mention, so now you've received it. How do you look at that and then decide, no, we're going to go with the referee? How do you see that? So you now, I can't even give you the benefit of the doubt, like, oh, it happened so fast, you didn't see it. No, now you've received it. How do you actually look at that and spinelessly tell me, no, I'm going to go with the referee?
Well, that's the reason. That's the reason we didn't start the show off by asking, does anyone who thinks it was a knockdown?
I'm not going to think something sinister is up. I'm not supposed to think that. Call me crazy, right? I mean, this guy's, you know, we're just talking about the champions matching 3-4 rounds later with Virgil Ortiz and Bohocek. You can take your time. You can call it right, bro. You can do the right thing.
That's what instant replay is for, and New York has that. So
it's not a Spike Lee joint. It's do the right thing.
Right. So why? What I'm very curious about as someone who's called boxing, been around fighting for years, outsiders go, how come I know a touchdown's a touchdown? I know a three-pointer's a three-pointer. In all these other sports, we don't have it. Why is it always boxing where this controversy comes over and over again? And Chris, you point out on one of our shows, and it's a great thing you did, the judging was good.
Yeah.
Right? For once, the judges saw a close fight as close, and I thought, you know, I thought Lamont Roach Jr. won the fight, but it's this idea of, God, of course something breaks down and it's bad refereeing. How frustrating is it being in the center of a sport where this kind of thing tends to fall around in ways it doesn't in other sports?
It hurt. It's sad because this is a sport that I grew up as a little kid, that it's given me so much. And that rather than moving it forward and making it better, we keep losing fans. I mean, if somebody tuned in for the first time last Saturday and loved the fight because it had that drama, it had that, at the end of the day, they know what they see. They saw a knockdown, they saw a guy turn his back, they saw rules being broken, and they saw a young man that should be a world champion, but no, it's not what you saw. This is really what you saw, and this is what you got to live with. That's why they don't want to come back to watch. So we have to fix that part. Stop having black eyes, no pun intended, and fix our sport so we invite people to come watch.
Well, first of all, one of the big, beautiful things about sports is underdog stories. When underdogs win,
Exactly.
people love that about sports. In boxing, they don't let the underdog win even when he wins.
Yes.
So it takes away the drama. But you know,
That's a good point.
Another thing about it, I'm going to push back on you guys, but I don't think the judging was that good. They gave Gervonta the early rounds just for showing up when nobody was throwing that many punches, and at least Lamont was stepping forward. And then in the round in question, 2 judges gave it 10-9 to Gervonta Davis, a round that probably should have been 10-8 for Lamont Roach. You don't even give Lamont at least a 10-9 round just to give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, he was pressing forward. The guy took a knee regardless of what discomfort he was feeling. You still gave it 10-9 to Gervonta Davis? Come on, bro. That's come on.
Done with it. He's taking out his.
I'm about to take off my headset.
But to answer your question, look, it's not a league. It's a very fragmented 50 state commissions. If you know, there's an old saying: if you want something done wrong, give it to the government to do. Right? We're a sport that's run by the government in 50 different states. If you break up standardization, rules, regulations, and everybody does it differently, and you've got all this stuff run by little state commissions, you're bound to have this problem. I think if you give it to a league, if you give it to the NBA, the NFL, if you give it to the UFC, they're governed by entrepreneurs. They're governed centrally by one person who's going to get it right. I think a lot of the problems, everyone keeps talking about, why does boxing always have this problem? The root of it is there's 4 sanctioning bodies, umpteen different promoters, and 50,
Different commissions.
Right. And that's a recipe
Yes.
for getting it wrong.
I have to agree with Gary because we should be seeing this maybe more on little commissions that don't do so many shows and they don't have the experience.
And you do. You see with little commissioners.
Well,
This is New York.
but to see it time and time again in California and Vegas and New York, we shouldn't see it. But if we had one solo that are the best trained,
to me,
out of all the all-stars,
to me,
should be
the
there.
4 big commissions in the U.S. are New York, Texas, Nevada, and California. Those are the big ones. You know, there's really an example. Things have to be led by those commissions that then the smaller commissions can abide by. And instead, you just see the bureaucracy and crap just spinning out of control. When there's big moments where you see more controversy than anything else, and it's hard to feel like it's genuine mistakes because, as Breadman said in another one of our shows, it's always the A side benefiting, dude. That's not.
Well, hold on. We saw Jack Reese frustrate everybody. He wasn't trying to frustrate everybody. He was telling you what the rules are, and he kept using the word discretion, discretion, discretion. Well, hold on. If everything's up to somebody's discretion, you're not going to have a lot of clarity, black and white, what the rule is. They're not following the rules. They've got to go ahead and stop saying that's not up to somebody's discretion.
Yeah, calling a timeout in the middle of a round is
right.
not
You
is
take
not
a knee,
discretionary
call a
factor.
timeout, stick your head out of the ring. You do all of these things. There's got to be a penalty. It can't be to someone's discretion because Willis, the referee, I mean, it would have been easier if it wasn't his discretion, wouldn't it? He could have just called balls and strikes. He would have took a knee, take a point.
Well, he did initially.
Right. Well, but because it was his discretion, he changed his mind.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, he shouldn't have it be his
And then
discretion.
it was at the discretion of the commission to see the replay and say, no, we're just going to leave it in there.
It's at our discretion.
Yeah, everybody's got a discretion. Even Javante had the discretion to take a timeout in the middle of a round and take a knee. Everybody had a discretion that night except Lamont Roach.
Discretion leads to human error. It allows for human error, I should say. So, I mean, what next? How does this appeal process? We're talking about New York State is one of the major commissions, right? One of the 4, like you said, right? Okay, so there is an appeals process. How does this look for the people at home who might not know how this kind of stuff goes? I mean, a lot of us don't know either.
I think it's black and white. I mean, I think they're going to review the video. They should have a panel. experts have the ref there. Let him be the first one to say whether he believes he made a mistake or not. They are in a tough position because it's on the fly. They don't have the instant replay. Well,
They did.
Technically.
We're trying to give you the way out, guys, but you're killing us.
Yeah. But they have to make a judgment call right away. But this wasn't one thing. It was one after another after another. Now, had it been Lamont do one of those 3 or 4 things, he would have lost a point. He would have got DQ'd, or he got 2 points taken away.
They might have stopped the fight.
Exactly. So I plead that do the right thing. And it's not so much because, okay, I represent Lamont and the benefits for Lamont. No, for the sport that I love and the sport that needs to do the right thing to keep growing and bringing new fans and that new generation, and to say, you know what, boxing is not corrupt and boxing is a beautiful sport, but they need to do the right thing. And this is the perfect time to do it.
When you look at it, Gary, has that been a consistent problem? It's seen from the outside and by a lot of insiders as an old boys club. They don't like to go back on themselves. Commissions will generally insulate themselves rather than admit wrongdoing, going after it anyway. Is that something in itself?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's an extreme situation. From everything we've seen, it's not a question, was it a low blow, was it a headbutt, was it after the bell? This is a lot more cut and dry than that. And so we hope that that's going to rule the day, so to speak. And if they don't, it is bad for boxing, because you see how many people are complaining right now. This incident is in the public square. Everybody's watching, everybody sees it, rules matter. I think they've got to do that. I mean, do I feel good about it for Tank? I don't know. It's a tough call if Lamont lost every round and we were lobbying to try to get this overturned. I have to be honest with you, I'd have trouble with that.
Sure.
Because one side will say, well, you're his promoter, you have to defend him, you go for it no matter what. But as a person who understands the right and wrong and winning and losing, I'd have trouble protesting if he lost every round and it wouldn't have made a difference.
Correct.
But arguably he won the fight. A lot of people feel he won the fight on the scorecards, and he got he got the unfortunate side of the judges. So now we have an opportunity to right a wrong, knowing that he genuinely deserved and could have been the winner of that fight. So I feel a lot better, making this appeal, and we'll see what they do. But I think the credibility of the sport, because this situation was so severe, that the credibility of the sport now is at risk, and why I think the commission will end up coming to the proper conclusion at the end of their investigation.
I had a fight. I'm sorry.
No, please.
I had a fight in Puerto Rico where the fighter I had in the last round, he's behind on all the cards, and he drops the fighter, the home fighter, twice in the last round. They don't call it. But at the end, if they would have called those 2 knockdowns, I still thought we lost. So it didn't matter. I didn't protest. Even the corner, aren't you going to protest? Guys, we lost 9 rounds or 8 rounds. So what difference is if we won, 1 round with 10-7? We still lost the fight. This is different. Had they given him that knockdown, he wins by majority decision.
And it's a 3-point swing on 2 cards.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this is something that for him, it's very important. The first man to beat Tank. 2-division world champion. I mean, he was a 20-1 underdog.
Also
he
one of the
wasn't
biggest
supposed to
upsets in
win.
the history of the sport.
So he goes down in the books. That's something you can't take away from him, or sign a check and say, hey, look, the rematch is going to be just as big with or without Tank having an O or a 1.
Yeah.
Because people want to see these guys again.
And I reiterate, people love sports. The element of the upset is one of the biggest deals that makes sports great. Boxing constantly tries to take that away by making A sides politically connected and win and whatnot.
Both of you
this is
know
one
what
of the
that's
dramatics of that makes sports
2014
fans.
upset of the year.
Yeah, makes sports fans among their why they love sports. When you tell sports fans the high drama of an upset gets everybody excited.
100%.
And look, Tank is one of the important ambassadors of the sport. Right, he is filling up that arena, And we got
19,200.
Yeah, we got to give him credit for that. So, I mean, but at the same time, he can handle a loss. You know, he's above it all now. Canelo has how many losses? You know better than anyone.
Two. And it'll make you better at times. It'll bring back that hunger. It'll bring back that focus. You know, I did tell people before the fight, and I say it again right now, I remind them, I said it before the fight. Please don't diminish Tank's performance if Lamont wins. On the contrary, give Lamont his praise because he's that guy. Today, I still say Tank is one of the top guys in boxing, pound for pound. There's just a little seat right next to him that says it's Lamont Roach's seat, too.
Well, we live in a different era now where guys do have losses. Canelo Alvarez, 2 losses, 2 draws. Lamont Roach has a loss and a draw going into this fight. Now, you know, if Gervonta has a loss, Dimitri Bivol and Beterbiev both have losses.
Yep.
And these are the top pound for pound guys in the sport. Mm-hmm. We're in a different era now. And everyone doesn't have to have an O anymore.
Correct.
So I'm with you, Robert. I think that Gervonta can survive the loss and still go on to big fights.
Mm-hmm. Last question.
Well, we're still waiting for Gervonta with the big fights. To be honest. I mean,
well, this rematch.
This rematch is a big fight because Lamont made it a big fight.
Right.
I'm going to put it with it. We're still waiting for Gervonta's big fights.
Last question I have for you, Gary. When do we expect, as fans, a resolution to this issue? When are you hoping for a resolution to this issue?
I think you'll see it in the next week, number one, and the rematch is going to happen. I think it'll happen sometime this summer, probably as early as June. I know that PBC wants to run it back, and they want to run it back while everybody's excited about it. So, I mean, putting all this noise aside, right? That's the most important thing, is we're going to see it again. Everybody wants to see it again. Everyone was really entertained, and I think that's the positive for the sport, right? Somebody saw someone step up and put Tank in an uncomfortable situation. It was highly entertaining, and we'll see it again soon.
We cannot wait to see it. Thank you so much. Robert Diaz, thank you for joining us. Boss Gary Jonas, as always. The champs, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi for Jimmy Smith. This has been ProBox TV. All the news from ProBox, you'll see it right here. See why millions are watching. We'll see you next time.